Who is your favorite guitarist of all time?
Jimi Hendrix. I think, it's got to be Jimmy. Great guy.
Pretty good pals, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I knew him a little bit because he kind of got discovered over here, really, even though he'd been working a long time in America.
Before the Beatles became the voice of a generation, a young Paul McCartney was obsessing over guitar licks in smoky Liverpool clubs. The bass virtuoso who shaped modern music was once just a wide-eyed fan, scrutinizing every bend and vibrato from his guitar heroes. "I'd stand right in front of them, watching their fingers like a hawk," McCartney reportedly confessed to Rolling Stone in 2018. "Those guitarists shaped everything I know about music." Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the 6 axe wielders who Paul himself has allegedly credited with influencing not just his playing, but the entire Beatles sound. From bitter rivalries to midnight jam sessions to brutal criticisms exchanged through the press, these relationships defined eras of music and sparked some of the most iconic songs ever recorded. Some of these picks might shock you. Others will confirm what true McCartney aficionados have suspected for decades. What's certain is that each guitarist on this list left an indelible mark on Sir Paul's musical DNA. Prepare for the definitive ranking of the guitarists who made McCartney who he is today. The ones he's praised, criticized, envied, and above all, respected through 6 decades at the pinnacle of rock royalty. 6. Scotty Moore. Long before Paul channeled his genius into a Hofner bass, there was Scotty Moore, Elvis Presley's pioneering guitarist whose razor-sharp leads reportedly left a teenage McCartney speechless in 1956. "I'd never heard anything like it," McCartney allegedly told BBC Radio in 2016. "Scotty's playing was this perfect marriage of country and blues. It was like he was speaking a new language that my ears were desperate to understand." What many don't know is that Paul supposedly attempted to recreate Moore's iconic sound during the Beatles' early Hamburg days. According to Pete Best, the band's original drummer, Paul would stay up all night trying to nail those Scotty Moore licks. He was obsessed with getting that rockabilly echo just right. The obsession paid dividends. Music historians point to Moore's fingerprints all over early Beatles tracks like "I Saw Her Standing There," where McCartney insisted on that distinctive treble-heavy rockabilly sound that producer George Martin reportedly found barbarically primitive at first. When Moore and McCartney finally crossed paths at a Nashville session in 1974, tension reportedly filled the room. Moore, allegedly feeling his contribution to rock had been overshadowed by the Beatles phenomenon, gave Paul nothing more than a curt handshake. Paul, however, stunned everyone present by dropping to one knee in a theatrical display of reverence. "Without you, none of us would be here," McCartney reportedly said to the visibly uncomfortable Moore. "You taught us all how to speak rock and roll." Moore's signature technique, those clean, articulate runs played with a thumb pick, would influence Paul's melodic sensibility for decades to come. George Harrison. The most complex guitar relationship in McCartney's life was undoubtedly with his bandmate George Harrison.
A whole lot of spending money, it's gonna take plenty of money.
Though Paul rarely lists him publicly among his influences, insiders claim Harrison's understated brilliance haunted McCartney for decades. "George and Paul were like fire and ice," Beatles engineer Jeff Emmerich reportedly revealed in 2017. Paul was technically superior on bass, but he'd watched George develop these ingenious guitar parts and you could see the envy in his eyes. Their relationship was famously strained during the Beatles' later years. When Harrison introduced the slide guitar technique that would define his solo sound, McCartney allegedly dismissed it as Indian nonsense during heated Abbey Road sessions. Yet in private, Paul was reportedly attempting to master Harrison's distinctive slides. Paul would never admit it, but he studied every note George played, Ringo Starr supposedly confided to a journalist in 1988. "After arguments, I'd find Paul in the studio alone trying to figure out George's solos." The tension reached its peak during the Let It Be sessions when Harrison temporarily quit the band. What few know is that Paul reportedly called George that night, leaving a message where he allegedly admitted, "Your guitar is the soul of this band. Without it, we're just 3 blokes making noise." Years later, after Harrison's passing, McCartney finally acknowledged his bandmate's influence. "George taught me that sometimes what you don't play is more important than what you do," he reportedly told Guitar World. His economy of notes made the rest of us sound like amateurs. 4. Jimi Hendrix. The explosive arrival of Jimi Hendrix on the London scene in 1966 sent shockwaves through the music world, and McCartney was among the first to feel the tremors.
Who is your favorite guitarist of all time?
Jimi Hendrix, I think. It's got to be Jimmy. Great guy.
Pretty good
'Cause
pals, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I knew him a little bit because he kind of got discovered over here, really, even though he'd been working a long time in America.
3 days after the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Hendrix performed the title track at London's Savile Theatre, with Paul watching from the audience. "It was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen," McCartney reportedly gushed to Melody Maker in 1967. "He'd learned the song in 3 days. I was blown away, absolutely floored." What insiders claim shocked Paul wasn't just Hendrix's virtuosity, but his fearlessness. According to roadie Mal Evans, McCartney returned to the studio the day after the show and allegedly announced, "Everything we've done is obsolete. Hendrix just rewrote the rule book." Their relationship quickly blossomed into mutual admiration, though not without competitive undertones. When Paul invited Jimmy to dinner at his London home in 1968, guests reportedly overheard McCartney nervously confessing, "I can't play a tenth of what he does." Hendrix, in turn, allegedly responded, "Yeah, but you write melodies that make grown men cry." Paul supposedly pushed the Beatles to incorporate more adventurous guitar sounds into their later albums, directly inspired by Hendrix's innovations. George Harrison reportedly resisted these efforts, creating tension that contributed to the band's dissolution. Most music historians don't know that Paul and Jimmy had planned to record together in 1970. "It was all set up," engineer Eddie Kramer allegedly revealed in a rare 2010 interview. "Studio time was booked. Paul had written material specifically for Jimmy's style. Then we got the news about Jimmy's passing, and Paul was devastated." 3. Chuck Berry. Before the Beatles' revolution, there was Chuck Berry, the architect of rock guitar whose influence on McCartney ran deeper than most fans realize. Paul didn't just admire Berry, he reportedly studied him with scientific precision. Chuck Berry wasn't just playing guitar, he was writing the scripture, McCartney allegedly told Mojo magazine in 2001. "Every note had meaning, every phrase told a story. I'd wear out his records trying to decode what he was doing." What few realize is that McCartney's distinctive bass style owes an enormous debt to Berry's guitar work. According to Beatles historian Mark Lewisone, Paul's melodic, counterpoint bass lines were a direct translation of Berry's guitar techniques to the 4-string. Paul would take Chuck's double stops and figure out how to make them work on bass, studio musician Klaus Voormann reportedly revealed. He'd say, "If Chuck can make a guitar talk, I can make a bass sing." The relationship between the two wasn't always harmonious. When the Beatles first toured America in 1964, they allegedly requested a meeting with Berry, who supposedly refused, dismissing them as British copycats to promoters. Paul was reportedly crushed by the rejection. Years later, they crossed paths at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event where tension hung in the air. According to witnesses, Berry approached McCartney and allegedly whispered, "You did all right with what you stole from me, boy." Paul, never one to back down, reportedly shot back, "We didn't steal it, we transformed it. That's what rock and roll is." 2. Chet Atkins. While most rock fans know Paul for his melodic bass lines and pop sensibilities, guitar aficionados have long detected the influence of country virtuoso Chet Atkins in McCartney's acoustic work. This unlikely connection represents one of music's most surprising cross-pollinations. "I discovered Chet Atkins through my father's record collection," McCartney reportedly told Guitar Player in 1990. "While the other lads were obsessing over blues players, I was secretly trying to master Chet's finger-picking style. It was like watching a man play piano with 6 strings." What Beatles scholars rarely discuss is how Atkins's clean, sophisticated approach shaped McCartney's guitar compositions. According to George Martin's diaries, Paul arrived at the Blackbird sessions with a stack of Atkins records, allegedly announcing, "I want to capture Chet's precision, but with my own melodic sense." The admiration wasn't initially mutual. When Beatles songs first reached America, Atkins supposedly dismissed them as simplistic pop trifles. But as the Beatles' catalog grew more sophisticated, Atkins reportedly changed his tune. Nashville studio musicians claim Atkins would frequently break down Beatles songs during sessions, focusing particularly on McCartney's contributions. Chet would say, "Listen to what this McCartney kid is doing here," session guitarist Jerry Reed allegedly recalled. "He's bringing classical sensibilities into rock music. That's exactly what I've been trying to do in country." Their paths crossed in Nashville in 1974, leading to an impromptu late-night jam session that has become legendary among insiders. Studio engineer Chuck Ainlay reportedly witnessed Atkins teaching Paul his signature thumb and fingers technique, while Paul showed Chet his approach to melodic composition. 1. Buddy Holly. At the pinnacle of Paul McCartney's guitar, Mount Olympus, stands Buddy Holly, the bespectacled revolutionary whose brief career left an indelible mark on McCartney's musical DNA. This wasn't just influence, this was full-blown musical devotion. "Buddy Holly was it for me," McCartney reportedly declared in his 2018 autobiography. "The way he played, the way he looked, the way he wrote, it was the complete package. I'd look in the mirror with my guitar and think, what would Buddy do?" What many don't realize is how directly McCartney channeled Holly's innovative guitar style. According to early Beatles associate Tony Sheridan, Paul allegedly learned to play by obsessively deconstructing Holly's records note by note, even adopting his distinctive rhythmic strumming pattern. Paul could play every Buddy Holly song ever recorded, John Lennon reportedly told journalist Ray Coleman in 1971. "Sometimes I thought he was possessed by Holly's ghost. It was almost spooky how he could channel him." The McCartney-Holly connection ran deeper than mere technique. Paul famously purchased Holly's publishing catalog in 1976, reportedly telling business associates, "This isn't an investment. This is protecting family heritage." When critics questioned the multi-million-dollar purchase, McCartney allegedly responded, "Without Buddy, there is no Beatles. The math works out." The relationship wasn't without its complexities. Holly's widow, Maria Elena, reportedly confronted McCartney at an industry event in 1980, allegedly accusing him of building a career by copying Buddy. Witnesses claim Paul was visibly shaken, responding, "I've never denied it. I've spent my life trying to live up to what he started." And there you have it, Paul McCartney's 6 guitar gods who shaped the sound of a generation. From Holly's revolutionary rhythms to Harrison's subtle genius, these 6 string masters left their fingerprints all over music history. Who's your favorite guitarist on Sir Paul's list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit subscribe for more untold stories from rock's golden age, and smash that like button if you want more legendary countdown videos. Until next time.